Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the sixth episode of the Beskar Bucket. And this week we have returning guest Ken from the Forces Behind Star Wars podcast.
Well, hello. Thanks for inviting me back. This is pretty exciting.
Absolutely. We had a vacancy on the Inflatable Falcon, so we decided to do just another episode of the Beskar Bucket tonight, since our captain Mike is currently MIA. So Ken and I are just doing a quick episode real fast, and I think in this one we're gonna tackle some costuming and what we're working on and whatnot. So yeah, Ken, what's new?
Well, actually, this past weekend, the Rackerdan clan from New Jersey had an armor party, and so I'm working on my second custom Mandalorian costume, and I'm nowhere near as done as I want to be. However, it has been quite fun this time around. There's a little bit less pressure to get it done by a certain time for a certain event. And I'm taking a lot more steps to make it a little bit more creative and a little bit more complete than my Kennex costume. That my Kennex costume is a basic one, just so that I could get approved. I could go through that rigmarole of the approval process, and this is definitely more unique. And so it's a post imperial Mando, and the chest armor is in sort of the style of Din Djarin in terms of it's two pieces that are merged together in one, as opposed to the Boba Fett Django style where it's separate pieces of chest armor. And I've added some individualized custom kind of cutouts to give it a little bit more pizzazz. So I'm super excited about that. And it was just nice to be able to go to this little gathering with the New Jersey group and get some help with it and see other people work on their stuff.
Well, yeah, and it's in kind of like you said with Kennex, you were kind of that kind of like get your foot in the door.
Oop, your mic dropped out again.
Maybe.
Yes, sir, you're back.
Sorry, I'm new.
Last thing I heard was get your foot in the door. Yep, you're there.
Sorry, it's a new mic. Yeah, but you were saying like Kennex was your entry level, and just kind of get your foot in the door. But now people in the Rackerdan clan, and so it's kind of easier for you now to start working on something a little more intricate. And don't get me wrong, I love Kennex, but now you've got those people around you where you can kind of fine tune the things that, like, oh, you maybe had to cut corners here, or you didn't really know what you were doing there, but now you can kind of put a lot more effort and a lot more what's the word I'm looking for? A lot more pizzazz on it.
Yeah, a
So
lot more detail. So, like I was saying, those little cutouts. So I've got some cutouts around the center chest diamond, and in Boba Fett and Django's chest armor, there were little slots on their chest armor where you saw some LEDs kind of light up. So I took that idea. I'm not going to have LEDs on mine, but I took that idea from having the two cutouts on the one chest piece, and I've extended it to both. And then, like I was saying, around the chest diamond, I've got some other cutouts because this helmet for this particular costume also has a different style of T visor. Normally, the T visor is just straight across and straight down. This helmet I purchased from a shop on Etsy, and there's a little bit more flare to the visor, so it comes straight down from the cross piece, and then it flares out a little bit and comes down even further. And so I'm mimicking that flare on my chest armor, so it's more of a cohesive set of bits, set of parts, and just that little bit, as basic as it may sound to describe, I think it adds definitely a little bit more personality, a little bit more custom to it, rather than as much as I love stormtroopers and scout troopers and royal guards. When you have 15 of them in a row, they all look the same. But when it comes to Mando, you can have 15 of them, side by side, and no one of them looks exactly like the other one, with the exception of that T visor that we can all recognize.
Well, even some of them don't have the same style of T visor, and because like you've got the Boba Fett, the Boba Jango, where it's like you said, it's straight across, straight down, or like you've got the Din Djarin, where it's kind of at an angle, getting thinner towards the back of the helmet, and then the T visor or the vertical piece is notched at the end, and it kind of tapers towards the bottom. So, or I mean, even like I know my custom Mandalorian helmet, because I don't have armor yet. It's it's kind of the front is like Din Djarin's, but it's got almost like wings on the top. You saw it when we were at our armor party, but that's why I love the Mandalorians, because like you said, there are no two that are alike, other than obviously your legacy characters. But yeah, I mean, like you said, you could line up 15 and you probably couldn't even match two colors together, let alone put two identical Mandos next to each other.
And it makes me think of the covert that we saw on screen, for the first season of The Mandalorian, where you saw, in passing, a whole bunch of different Mandos. Yeah, you recognize the helmet right away, but the color schemes were different. Even the range finders were different on their helmets. So it was really cool to see, and that's always been my fascination with the Mandalorian mercs as a costuming group. Is there is that wide breadth of creativity, all focused around that one single style of the T-visored helmet.
Mm-hmm. Now, have you decided on whether or not you're going to do the symmetrical or the asymmetrical for the armor?
That's still up in the air. Yeah, that's not a finalized decision yet. So I'm still working on both sets of shoulder bells, because I haven't seen all the parts together. Again, one of the challenges for me building a costume like this is I see it from my vantage point in terms of the construction of it, and I haven't taken the time yet to put it on me, have somebody take a picture of it so I can then see what it looks like. So I'm still up in the air whether I want to have the shoulder bells match or if I want them to be different. And the reason I'd want them to be different is a little bit around the story behind my character. So my character is going to be loaded to the gills with weapons. He's going to have 2 pistols on his hips. He's going to have a backpack that on one side has a slot for a sword. He's going to have another slot on the back of his backpack for a modified blaster like Babe Malbus had. He's going to have a hidden blaster in the small of his back. His left gauntlet is going to have a knife in it like Hunter from Bad Batch. So already has a whole bunch of weapons. And what I was thinking in terms of the mismatched shoulders was to have my left shoulder armor be larger, because when I'm using that big heavy blaster, I would be turning my body sideways and my left shoulder would be facing front and my right shoulder would be facing back. So I think I would want more protection in that position. So I might go with the mismatched armor, but I haven't decided yet.
Yeah, and again, I don't mean to stifle any creativity that you might have, but even if because you think your left shoulder would be more prominent, more forward, also reaching up and back with your right arm, you might want a smaller plate so it's not as bulky and not as encumbersome, if you will, for lack of a better term. So I always like the asymmetrical look. I think that's why I like Din Djarin so much, is because there's nothing other than his shoulder bells and his gauntlets. The rest of his armor is asymmetrical. And I guess his chest armor, but his legs are asymmetrical.
Yeah, and that was his second. Was that the second season look where they ended up being the same shoulder bells? Because the first season they were even parts from other pieces, other costumes. At the one point I thought he had a shoulder bell of a shore trooper, and so it looked like he had just cobbled all these bits together.
Well, that was his pre-Beskar look, his Durasteel armor.
Okay.
And then he got in episode 2, or no, it was the end of episode 1. He got the Beskar shoulder bell on the right side, and then his whole Beskar look was episode 3. So, and that was, he still had his Durasteel thigh, right thigh, that it just had like Beskar splatter over it to give it a little bit more rigidity. So his Durasteel look was the one that had those the shoulder bells from the Shore Trooper.
Okay.
But then in season 2, well, when Moff Gideon blew up the energy pack from the E-Web, it blew off his right thigh, that Durasteel thigh. So then he used a piece from Zero, the
droid.
Yeah, the droid is his. If you look closely, that's what his right thigh plate is in season 2, is just part of Zero's thigh.
Oh, that's pretty funny.
Yeah, little food for thought there, little Easter egg. But yeah, I don't know why, I really like the mismatched look. That's so the shoulder bells that I have the same shape, but one has the Mythosaur skull on one side, the other is just flat, just to again kind of give it that mismatched look. I wish you could get away with having like almost cobbled together like chest armor, but I understand that that's not really doable.
But yeah, that's definitely a challenge depending on the era of costume you're making for the Mandos. Because with the post-Imperial, it's mostly the chest armor is mostly just either one big plate or it's 2 plates that are laid on top of each other. And then the Legacy armor, it's 2 chest pieces, the Iron Cross, and then an ab plate.
Mm-hmm.
And your collar with the Legacy, the Boba and Jango. It also has that collar piece.
Yeah,
plus your shoulder bells.
That's why I'm doing. If I'm doing anything, I'm doing a post-Imperial because I hate the collar. I technically have armor plates, they're Legacy plates. I hate the collar. I can't wear it. It's so uncomfortable because I like capes. I know Edna Mode would kill me, but I really like capes. So I also don't want to wear a back plate. That's the other thing.
Well, with the Mercs, if you do post-Imperial, you have to have a back plate.
Even with a
cape?
I can't get away from it.
Yeah, my Kennex, I was able to, because it's a Legacy set, you don't have to have the back plate as long as you have your back covered. So that's why Kennex has a cape, because he doesn't have a back plate, doesn't have a jetpack, doesn't have a backpack. So I just wear the cape, so I don't have to worry about a back plate.
But even with post-Imperial, you have to wear, no matter what, you have to have a back. No one's going to see it.
Yep. And with one of the cool things about the post-Imperial kits as well is the way that the shoulders are attached. I could theoretically make 2 sets of shoulder bells, and depending on the look that I wanted to go for that day, I could swap out my shoulders. So let's say I start off with 2 of the same, and then I decide to put the backpack on and mount the blaster. I can then switch out one shoulder bell for another one and walk around the con the rest of the day with the 2 different ones. Because I don't have to permanently fix the shoulder bell to the costume. I can just use Velcro or snaps or something like that and just quickly change one for the other.
But with forgive me, I have not. I've looked more into the 501st than the Mando Mercs. I have a rudimentary knowledge. Now with the Legacy though, how do the shoulders have to be attached?
That's the cool thing about the CRLs. Most of the time, it doesn't get into that level of specificity. So, for instance, Kennex, all of my armor pieces, they're held to my vest by Velcro. As long as the Velcro is not visible in the approval photographs, you can use Velcro. I mean, I know people who use snaps. Some people use Chicago screws or Sex screws, depending on which part of the world you're from. Some other people use magnets. I've even seen some people who go so far as to just screw through their vest into the back of the plate.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see. I like my armor being permanently attached, and I know that's one thing that is a big no-no. It can't be affixed to your uh, costume permanently. Like it can't be glued to your vest. So, and I kind of get that, but at the same time, wouldn't you rather it be permanently fixed so that way you don't have a mishap at like a convention or a troop
Well,
where something
I mean, you
falls
can
off?
do that. Like I was saying, you can have it permanently attached there. They're not going to see that in the approval photographs. So
Right.
that really comes down to you. The one thing you don't have to think about this, but you may want to consider this is how are you going to then keep it clean after these events? So
True.
I can take my plates off at the end of event, throw the vest into the washing machine with my other stuff, and wash it. Where some folks, whoever you like, use Chicago screws or screws in general, they have to go through that process of taking it off, washing it, and then a whole lot of effort to put it back on. And at the same time, when they're more securely attached at these events, you're less likely to worry about them shifting, and you don't need a handler because once they're set, they're set.
Hmm.
You know,
Yeah,
there's
that's
been
a good point. I guess I didn't really think about that because with my Din Djarin, nothing is there is enough separation between me, my body, and my vest. I don't really have to worry about that because everything is so thick. Because I'll wear a shirt underneath my flight suit. Nothing's permanently attached to it because it's only the shoulder bells and the gauntlets. And I rarely sweat through that because it's very thick canvas.
yeah.
And then the pants and the whole flight suit can just be washed on its own. So I guess I didn't really think about that from a different costume perspective. I guess I'm more so thinking of this from my experience with Din.
Yeah, and having
So
those pieces more securely attached definitely comes in handy. If
yeah,
you're walking through a crowd, you're less likely to have something get caught on something else and get shifted or moved around or whatever.
yeah, because because I started with Velcro. I tried everything to try and get those pieces velcroed to the flak vest, and it wasn't happening. The velcro the backing of the velcro kept falling off, or it kept falling off the armor, and then I just gave up and I super glued it to the vest, and that's the only reason it came off is because I had to replace the plates, and that actually tore the
The vest.
exterior of the vest, so I had to be careful removing it. So yeah, I prefer to have it fixed permanently so there's less worry. But I understand that that's not exactly ideal for all costumes.
Well, the other piece to that to consider is, let's say you work on your costume, you've got it set up, you put your plates on, you take your photographs to be approved. During the approval process, they may say, especially on a legacy kit, because you've got one, two, three, four different chest pieces of armor, they want to have consistent spacing between all of those pieces. And let's say
Mhm.
you put it together, you send in the pictures, and they say, well, your ab plate is too low and you need to move it. Well, if you've gone through the steps of gluing it or screwing it or whatever to your vest, now you have to take it off, adjust it, and then reconnect it. So that's one of the reasons why I went with Velcro at first. And one of the benefits of my costume, it's made from 3mm Sintra, so it's
Mhm.
lightweight in terms of the material, and Velcro easily attaches to the Sintra, and it's lightweight enough to not necessarily fall off the vest because of the weight of it. But
Mhm.
3D prints or even 6mm Sintra is a little bit heavier, so it falls off the Velcro.
Yeah, that's the other problem I have is I'm not a fan of Sintra because I'm just not good enough at working with it. And with a 3D print, you get every single print is exactly how you wanted it to look for the most part, barring failures, of course. But you 90% of the time, you're gonna get exactly what you set out to print. So, I want to. I'm changing up the my initial thought for my design. If I do ever do a Mercs costume, I'm scrapping the legacy armor that I've got because it's not comfortable for me. Um, but I'm gonna go for the Death Watch style chest plate where it's you've got the two pieces with the iron heart in the middle, and then that small, almost like triangular piece below it on the vest. So I think that's the chest armor that I'm gonna go for.
Yep. And the
So
cool thing about that particular style is you can use a plate carrier. So you know the vest, the tactical vests that police officers and soldiers use
mhm,
to wear. For lack of better words, it's a bulletproof vest, just without the plating inside.
mhm,
So you can use one of those as your vest, as long as you take the pockets off of it and take the big pieces of Velcro off the sides. That's what I'm using as the base for my vest for my post imperial. Unlike the legacy vest that has it's a different shape. It actually has sort of sleeves, at least has epaulettes or whatever that the shoulder armor attaches to.
mhm.
So it's a little less involved for the vest for the post imperial versus the legacy plates, the legacy kits.
So have you started doing that yet? Because I that's what I was thinking. Because I have or have access to um old plate carriers. Um,
Yep.
and my big thing is the Velcro, or excuse me, the elastic on the top
Hmm.
and the elastic on the sides. I don't know how to get around those.
So you can leave the ones on the top, the ones that, for lack of better words, are the pieces that go over the shoulder, almost like a tank top.
Hmm.
You can leave those. You just have to make sure that the front and the back are adjusted properly so that they sit on your body appropriately, and then you can cover them up. Some people
Okay.
will print out 3D print rectangles that are kind of curved that you can then attach over the top of the webbing or the Velcro just to cover them up.
Hmm.
So you don't necessarily have to remove them or do away with them. You can just cover them up so that they're not visible.
Okay. And what about the sides? Because I know the ones that I've seen, you know, they've got the straps on the back that you pull and you kind of interlock them in the front.
Yeah, you can take those right off. Just have to be careful because the way that they're attached um, is you want to make sure you're not cutting the core part of the vest. You want to cut off just those Velcro wings that come around.
Hmm.
So you remove those, and then you would sew on or attach different straps to connect the front to the back.
Okay.
And there's a couple of different YouTube videos, or even if you join. One of the things I'd encourage you to do if you're really interested in um, creating a Mandalorian Mercs costume is to get on the Mandalorian Mercs forums. Join see if you can find the Ohio clan. I'm not sure off the top of my head the name of it. You
It's
can join the
the Rancor
forum.
clan.
Okay, and even if you don't have to be an official member of the Mercs to get on the forums and start interacting with them and getting in contact with them. And a lot of times, I mean, for instance, that armor party that I was talking about, it's not just for official members. That's how we also help other people build their costumes. We invite unofficial members to the armor parties and help them work on their costumes.
Hmm.
So, and then there's lots of videos, lots of photographs. Just be prepared because it's like Etsy or Pinterest. Once you step into it, you could find 4 hours of your life gone that you never realized left because you were wandering around looking at the different pictures that folks put up about their costume builds.
Right. Yeah. That I need to. to get in with the Rancor clan. Just because I want to ingrain myself, because we've got the Apollo Squad, the Ohio Garrison, and the Rancor clan. Those are the big three here. So I need to get in with all three of them, so I can start kind of surrounding myself with more Star Wars people closer to home. So,
well,
yeah.
And by going that route, which is somewhat different than folks I know in the past that have done, they've picked one and they've just stuck to that one, not realizing or not fully appreciating that the other ones exist and the benefits of being kind and friendly to those other groups. You know, there have been some folks like, oh, I'm in this group and the rest of them are poo-poo. It's this group that's cooler and this group that's, you know, better, or this group that, you know, has, you know, more accurate costumes or whatever. Forgetting the fact that that group over there is also a group of Star Wars fans who are creative and want to build costumes so that they can, you know, go to these events and make folks happy or help folks be happy.
Right. And don't get me wrong, I gravitate towards the 501st, not because I think they're a better group or they have better people, just more so because I like the costumes that are encapsulated within that group. That doesn't mean that I don't like anything that Rebel Legion or what potentially the Mando Mercs could have. I just like the bad guy costumes. So that's why my goal was to join the 501st first.
Well, it's funny that you say that, because are the Mandalorians really good or bad? Like, do they lean one way or the other?
See, the thing with the Mercs though is my lack of creativity sometimes.
Oh, your mic dropped out again. Yep, now it's back.
What was the last thing you heard?
The Mercs.
So the thing with the Mercs is it's my lack of creativity that hurts me, because I think I'll have like a really good idea. I'll put pen to paper, and then as soon as the pen touches the paper, I lost it, and I have a hard time getting that back and reinvigorating what the idea was. So joining the Mercs is because, yeah, I could always do a legacy character, but that's not what the Mercs are about. Everyone does a custom Mandalorian.
Well, lots of people do, and now with shows like The Mandalorian, Book of Boba Fett, and even to a lesser degree, you know, Star Wars Rebels. Now there are many more folks that are, you know, leaning towards doing those costumes that are on screen. Whether you're talking about, you know, Bo-Katan or Axe Woves or even Death Watch.
Yeah.
You know, and even some of them, like specifically Din Djarin, I think those costumes are approvable in multiple clubs.
Mm-hmm.
So you can have one Din Djarin costume and be a member of the Mercs as an official member and a member of the 501st as an official member.
Yeah, I do know that the CRL for the Mandalorian Bo-Katan was just approved, so that's another Mandalorian that's jumping between both. I don't know if her CRL in the Mando Mercs has been approved for the realistic the season 2 Mandalorian costume, but that costume is also now reciprocated in both.
And see, that for me, it's a head scratcher. You know, one of those curious kind of things. Like, you know, if it wasn't for the popularity of these shows, would that exist?
How do you mean?
So, before The Mandalorian, before the Book of Boba Fett, you know, the Mercs weren't necessarily the most highly regarded costuming club.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but now that folks like Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau have elevated this small band of Star Wars characters, it's definitely getting a lot more attention and I think a lot more respect than it did before.
Oh yeah, I definitely think that has at least something to do with it, because it's the Mandalorians before the Clone Wars even were really, it was okay. Well, we've read about this in the books if we're like super Star Wars fans, But really, other than that, it was okay. You've got Boba Fett and Jango Fett. Those were the only Mandalorians that you saw.
There
So
was a handful of other ones, but definitely not necessarily well known ones,
right, at
like
least
Jodo Cast and stuff like that.
at least nothing in the mainstream, nothing
Yes,
that
that is
almost
for
everyone
sure.
knew about. But then with the Clone Wars, I mean, then that branched into you had Death Watch with Pre Vizsla and Bo Katan, and then you finally saw Mandalore, and then of course then you had Rebels, and then the Mandalorian and the Book of Boba Fett, where that's certainly expanded the generalization of the popularity of the Mandalorians. So I think Dave Filoni and to a lesser degree John Favreau are definitely to thank for the popularity of the Mandalorians, because I truly think without the Clone Wars we don't have the Mandalorian.
Yeah, that's for sure.
So
And even George himself, was surprised by the popularity of Boba Fett.
well,
He
yeah,
had he had big story ideas for him, but what ended up on the screen was very very small. Yet a lot of people, got excited about it. I mean, he had expanded universe novels and he was a bunch of comic books and stuff like that. But to your point, he wasn't necessarily the mainstream character that everyone named. I mean, they could say he looked badass, but that was about it. But now there are folks that know all sorts of different names of different Mandalorians.
well, yeah. I mean, I can think of five off the top of my head, and that's common knowledge to me.
Yep.
But back in like, hell, even 20 years ago in 2002, like I said, it was okay. You've got in from strictly on screen, you've got Boba Fett and you've got Jango Fett, and now look,
Yeah.
20 years later, there's
Yep.
20 different named characters that I could think of off the top of my head.
Yeah. Even to the point where they created a Mandalorian Jedi and a whole
Yeah,
different lightsaber variety and so on.
yeah. I mean, they're uber popular characters. So in I think it's like you said, even though George didn't have an idea of how popular Boba Fett was going to be, I think that it's one of those things where yeah, he looked cool enough to spawn everything else. And
Yeah.
even though he was very unceremoniously killed in Return of the Jedi, it was still one of those things where it's like, okay, we need to expand on him and his people in the future.
Yep.
So, God, gotta love toy sales, right?
Yeah. Now, I mean, I think they recently sold one of those 1978 Boba Fett toys, like over $1 million or something like that. I thought.
Yeah, the rocket firing Boba Fett.
Yep.
Yeah, that. I mean, you want to talk about a uh, one of the most infamous toys of all time. That and the Battlestar Galactica Viper.
Oh,
Not to get off on a Battlestar tangent, but I mean, who? I get it. It was the late '70s, early '80s, but who approved that initially? I mean, come on. You're talking about an inch, maybe inch and a half rocket. That's screaming choking hazard. So, because they used the same it you would probably know better than I would, but correct me if I'm wrong. They used the exact same rocket design for the Viper and for Boba Fett, didn't they?
well, I think in the prototype, yes. But then there was, because of that pushback, they had worked on creating some different firing mechanisms. So there was like the J on the back where you could actually lock it, but I
Hmm.
don't think it changed. I don't think it ended up changing the shape of the rocket itself. Um,
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I'm more so talking about the design of the rocket itself, not the firing
yeah,
mechanism.
I'm pretty sure I think they're the same.
Yeah, because Kenner made the Battlestar toys too, didn't they?
I thought so.
Yeah, I'm fairly confident in that. Anyway, we're getting off track here.
You didn't realize this was a Battlestar Galactica podcast?
Right.
Well,
Um,
they are really close cousins.
that's true. You know,
And after
if
all, John Dykstra, after finishing up, A New Hope, did a little bit of work on Battlestar Galactica.
you beat me to it by half a second. I was right about to name drop John Dykstra. The new knowledge that I have,
Uh,
which I need to. I slacked off this week. I still need to watch the 5th episode of Light and Magic, because I was telling Mike last week on the Inflatable Falcon, which you should watch Wednesday nights at 8:30 live on YouTube. But I had to I took in too much knowledge at once, where I was like, just total overload. So I'm like, okay, we're watching one episode a week now. We're cutting back to, because like I can binge watch nonfiction all the live long day and I can retain all of it. But I can binge watch fiction all day. But when it comes to nonfiction, if I take in too much of the real world, my brain starts to just forget everything. And it's like, okay, I just wasted an hour and didn't pick up anything. So
yeah, and the other challenging part about watching the documentary, if could be a challenging thing about it, is not only are you listening to what they're saying, but you have to really pay attention to what they're showing, because there's so much in there. There's so much to appreciate and explore in the videos and the photographs from that early stuff back in the 70s.
well, yeah,
Yeah.
because like you said, you're trying to pay attention to what they're saying, but there's so much on screen that just little nuggets and Easter eggs, in every little scene where you're like, oh, I didn't realize that they used XYZ part for YZX model. So, or I didn't realize that Greebly was on that ship. So and with me, like I'm very ADHD. Like it's hard for me to pay attention to two things at once. So that's the other problem I have with documentaries. I love documentaries. Don't get me wrong, but it's very difficult for me to, when the person's on screen, I can pay total attention. But when they start cutting away and just having them do voiceover, that's where it's like, okay,
Oh yeah,
this is getting dicey
because
now.
now you're challenging me to do two things. You're challenging me to listen and watch,
Right.
and I can only do one really well. I can't do them both necessarily really well at the same time.
Yeah, I love like, I mean, you called me out for it. I really got into the whole behind the scenes documentary mode, where I was just that's what all was popping up in my YouTube stream. I watched the Empire of Dreams documentary, and yeah, I got deep into that.
So there should have been a warning on that documentary for more than your average Star Wars fan, that if you watch this documentary, you may step into the rabbit hole that you never escape from. Because,
Yeah.
You've already said that it led you to watching other documentaries. And there's even more out there. So from the beginning, they were documentaries on the making of these movies. Plus, if you want to go another step further, there were lots of magazine articles. I mean, Starlog magazine is a wonderful one if you want to see some of the early stuff, the pre-internet stuff, the pre-fever stuff. Plus, Fantastique or Fantastique. I'm not pronouncing it right at all, but I can spell it for you. CINEFANTASTIQUE. Cinefantastique. And it was a magazine from, this one is one that has Conan on the front.
Oh,
But
okay.
they did a lot of behind the scenes stuff for all sorts of movies, from John Carpenter's Dark Star to Star Wars. And they would get into the nitty gritty. They'd show black and white photographs of them making the models and stuff. Plus, there's all the art of books and the making of books by J.W. Rinsler. I mean, I probably have 60 different books all related to the making of these movies.
Mm-hmm.
It's, yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those things where like you said, I'm in that rabbit hole now, and it's impossible to get out of. Because Mike and I were talking about it last week.
Hey guys, this is Mike Hinton here, part of the Inflatable Falcon podcast, and we're also part of the Unifying Fandom Network of podcasts. And I'm here with my friends, and we talk all things Star Wars.
Yeah, my name is John. I'm one of the co-hosts. We talk things from 3D printing to all the costuming groups and going to conventions in our costumes.
Yeah, and this is Ken, one of the other co-hosts of the Inflatable Falcon. And when I'm not on the forces behind Star Wars, I'm talking with John and Mike about costuming, making food, fixing our cars, and anything else related to the Star Wars universe.
So if you check us out, Wednesdays again, 8:30 we record live, and back to your show.
Now we want to get back into like the film aspect of it. Like we're trying to get Matt into gear and pick a date for another shoot, but we don't. That's like our only outlet right now that we know of to that. We can scratch that itch, but yeah, it's I'm down bad, as the kids would say. I need more nitty gritty Star Wars, and that goes further than just like watching some stuff on screen. Like I want to be involved in it. So I hope that Matt picks a day for the Han Solo Chronicles, which hopefully is coming out soon, because hopefully when you're listening to this, we'll have already finished it and you'll be able to watch it live and in theaters. But yeah, I know Mike and I are chomping at the bit to get back at it, and I'm sure you are too, but I didn't want to speak for you.
Oh, you're absolutely right. I definitely want to get back out with the crew. Part of it is just the sheer enjoyment of seeing everybody come together from all these different places with one purpose in mind. We're here to make this thing. We're here to be in our gear. We're here to make this thing that we know that folks are gonna enjoy, either enjoy making like us and or watching, because I'm gonna imagine that once this is done, you'll watch it a couple times.
Oh, just a couple? Yeah. I think you hit the nail on the head. It's the camaraderie of it, where we're all getting together and we're all doing this one thing for this one goal. And there's one thing to be said about trooping, like an event where, okay, yes, we've talked about this at nauseum, where it's, you love seeing the smile on kids' faces. You like making someone's day. Yes, that is all. I love that. But there's something different when you take that same core of, all right, I'm going to go be in costume for a day, and then you transport that into, I'm going to go be in costume on screen for a day. And I think when you're surrounded by 10, 15 other people that are either in costume or working behind the scenes, I think that was one of the most magical experiences I've ever had in my life. Were those 2 days where we were just out there shooting, having a good time in costume, or just surrounded by people in costume. And it's a totally different experience that's on another level.
So with that in mind, and I know that you and I and Mike have bounced around different ideas, whether it's short vignettes or comedy sketches or our own little fan film. What if we took that inspiration of getting in costume, and being on camera at the same time? Who's to say that we couldn't work together to do small documentaries of a show, of a convention?
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's Steel CityCon, that we all come together and gear up. And so for this hour, you're going to serve as handler and you're going to do some recording. And in this hour, I'm going to be the handler and do some recording. And the next hour, Mike is going to, be the handler and do some recording, and then cobble it all together for some finished product.
So it's funny you say that, because Mike and I actually talked about that last week. Because I think Mike and I kind of decided that we're going to end up trooping if he gets his Vader done, we're gonna end up trooping Steel City in December, and obviously I'm gonna bring Kylo and Din and whatever else I have done by then, because that's 4 months from now. But we were thinking about doing, just like a short little sketch of like Kylo following Vader around and just like kind of like doing that like mimicking thing, like, oh, you said this, well, yeah, he said that kind of deal. That kind of like tongue-in-cheek thing. So like that is something we've already thought about, and I definitely think that, even if we do like a short little sketch type deal, or if we do like a documentary type thing where we're kind of going around in costume, and then like the three of us or however many people we get to do it can narrate over top of it, like, yeah, this is what goes on when you're in costume. I think that's a fantastic idea, and I think I really hope that you're able to make it out for Steel City Con in December. I know Mike and I are a lock. I missed August and I'm still upset about it.
I'm not going to say on camera that I'm upset about it, because I had a glorious time celebrating Heather's birthday. And it would have been kind of cool to go to Steel City as well.
Yeah, but Mike and I wouldn't have been there, so and you and Mike wouldn't have been there, and
Yeah.
you and I wouldn't be there for Mike, so it all worked out.
Yes, we were exactly where we needed to be.
Exactly. But yeah, so I know Mike and I are all but a lock for December, and hopefully you're able to make it out with us, because I'm also trying to convince my dad to go. And if I can get him to go, that would be stellar, because not only can I finally admit victory and drag him out to his first convention, I can show him firsthand why it is that I do this all the time.
Yeah,
So-
and you won't be the only weirdo there.
I won't be the only weird Scalise there, is the big thing.
Oh yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, you'll
Yeah, I'm already
dynamic
surrounded
too.
by weirdos, but I won't be the only one that is blood related.
That's true. That's true.
But yeah. So speaking of my dad, I'm actually I talked to him, and I think I'm finally gonna get him on for an episode of the Beskar Bucket
Oh, that'd be
after
cool.
several months of you and Mike hounding me to do it. So
Oh, do you have an idea for a topic for him?
I do, but I don't want to spoil it, because
Okay.
I think it's gonna be. It's one of those things where I was talking about this with Mike last week. I have to dance around some subjects because he and I get really heated because we don't see eye to eye. So I picked something that he and I have a shared passion for, that we both agree, at least to a certain degree, where it's still an entertaining conversation, but it's not like, I like this, I also like this, and it's just us parroting each other back
But
and
I like
forth.
it more.
Right. So
It's funny that you say that. You bring up that you and your dad have opposing views on certain things, because the other day on my way home from work, and it might have been the day that I was listening to you and Mike, I was thinking that we could do an episode or two and call it the Star Wars Debate Club. And so one of the three of us could act as the facilitator, the moderator, the mediator of the debate. And then the other two of us can debate a topic. And knowing that the three of us are all friendly and good-natured, we could debate a topic that do have potentially diametrically opposed views and still be okay with it. And then, the next time we do the debate club, so let's say you're on view 1, Mike is the moderator, I'm on view 2. The next time around, Mike can be view 1, I be the moderator, you're view 2. And we do this rotating round robin. And it doesn't have to be, every episode, maybe every couple episodes.
Mhm.
Because there are a lot of topics that I think could make for great conversations of debate. For instance, were the Jedi good guys?
Oh, that's a good one.
Or what was the other one? That Jar Jar Binks is the most important character in Star Wars.
I'm going to stop you right there, because you have liquid gold in your hands, and I don't need you to spoil any more topics.
Okay.
That is a genius idea, and I'm 150% down to do that.
I so I thought about it on the way home the other day, and it was still in my mind that the next day during a Zoom meeting, I'm doodling, and do you remember the movie Fight Club?
Hmm.
And the logo was a bar of soap and it said Fight Club. I actually doodled Star Wars Debate Club on a bar of soap and put a hand on it. Like that idea was so much in my head for 2 days that I doodled during a work Zoom meeting, and hopefully none of my coworkers are listening and will call me out on it. But I doodled Star Wars Debate Club on a bar of soap.
That is an absolutely genius idea, and we need to talk about this. We need to hammer out the logistics of this. As what show will it go on? When will we do it? And who's what? Okay, I'm 100% down. Because look, if we do it on here on my show, I'll be the moderator. I'll let you, because it's very hard for me to disagree with either of you, because I think we all have these kind of same idea paths, and I feel I'm good at moderating, because I've moderated debates in school before, so I feel like I can keep a pretty good handle on it. But if we do it on the Inflatable Falcon, I want you to moderate so bad.
Yeah, absolutely. And we could take turns. Who knows?
Right.
Because one of the things that we're working on for the forces behind Star Wars is trying to be more consistent, get stuff out there on a more frequent basis. Because right now we may release one episode a month or something like that. And our last episode, we had, I think, just from Facebook views, I think we had like 5,000 views, which is huge for us.
Mhm.
You know, I mean, that's ginormous for us. Because I think we have like 6 subscribers or 6 likers or so. I don't know. We're not well known yet. So we want to get more stuff out there, and maybe some of these special episodes could be plugged in when we can't get Demetrius and Anthony and Dexter and Steven all together at the same place at the same time.
Right. Yeah, I think that is a phenomenal idea. I think that's truly something special you have concocted in your brain. So I don't know if that's been done in such an organized manner before. And I think that's phenomenal, and I'm all for it.
Yeah,
So-
I had fun just bouncing it around in my head during the doodle session and the drive home the one day.
Oh, God! Now I'm just thinking of topics to even debate there. But
I think I have a list of probably a dozen. You know,
I
so
love it.
Beyond the two that I mentioned.
All right, well let's change topics here so we don't give
let's
too
come
much
back
more
to the
away.
let's come back to the costume topic. So this idea of debate. What do you think from the original trilogy? What do you think would be the greatest costume to make?
Oh boy, the greatest costume for me to make, or the greatest costume that has been made?
You can answer it anyway, and I'll just respond to it in like fashion.
I think, because I've got an answer for both. The greatest costume for me to make would be, I would love a Return of the Jedi Boba Fett, because that for me that is the quintessential. When I think of the original trilogy, that's okay. It would either be Return of the Jedi Boba Fett, or it would be Darth Vader. Those would be the two costumes that I would love to do. The greatest costume that was made and put on screen, I think without a shadow of a doubt, was Chewbacca. So, because I know we had kicked this idea around of, if money were no issue,
Mhm.
I would 100% I would build either one of those two costumes, Vader or Boba Fett. And I would even throw Chewbacca in there, because that is a costume that I would like to do. I would love to do a Wookiee. So I would say any of those three would be a good answer to your question there.
It's so so greatest costume to make. I'm absolutely positively right there with you. Boba Fett Vader. One for the intricate details that went into them, all the way down to those special tools that were in Boba's pant leg pocket that he never used on screen, but folks have been able to track down the actual appliance that those things are. However, with the the other one, where you said greatest costume, for me, it would be Jabba the Hutt.
That's a good point.
I mean, that costume had, I think, either four or six people inside of that thing to make it move. You
Well,
had
two for both arms. You had a little person for the tail that Carrie Fisher actually crushed, jumping over top because of George Lucas. And then you had, I think one for the head and then one for the tongue. So yeah, I think I 4 to 6 is pretty close. I'm trying to. I don't remember the exact number. I thought I had it, but I don't.
Yeah, because it wasn't just just a puppet. I mean, there were people inside of that dang thing. So that, for me, that counts as a costume.
Yeah.
It's not just a hand, or it's not a radio controlled animatronic thing. It was people inside the suit.
Right. Yeah. No, I didn't even think about that. I have to agree with you on that. But did you see that though? I don't remember if that was in the Enlightened Magic or if that was Empire of Dreams or if that was just something else that I watched.
Well, it was in Empire of Dreams. I also think that it was in there was a Creatures documentary.
Okay.
I think it may have been in that.
But yeah, for those of you who don't know though, I don't remember exactly what the setup was, but George wanted Carrie Fisher to, instead of being in front of Jabba, he wanted her to leap over him and choke him from behind while she was on the sail barge. And she unknowingly accidentally stepped on the person puppeteering the tail of Jabba and gave him a concussion, to where they gave him a helmet and a little bit of extra padding on top so she would be able to do it for multiple takes. So
Talk about the efforts that go into making a movie. Geesh.
Right. And the resilience of the person puppeteering the tail.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's one of my favorite stories from the original trilogy, is they had to give the poor guy a helmet because Carrie Fisher stepped on him on accident.
Yeah, and if you get a chance, that documentary is called Classic Creatures, and it came out after Return of the Jedi.
Gotcha. And is that just Star Wars, or is that
Yeah, just Star Wars.
Okay. Classic Creatures is kind of a vague title, so wasn't 100% sure.
I might even think it might have been something like Star Wars, or it might have been Classic Creatures like Return of the Jedi or something like that, but I know that it was around that time.
Gotcha.
And they did a lot of, just like Light and Magic, where it's a lot of the behind the scenes stuff. Except the funny part about it was filmed at that time and released at that time. Unlike Light and Magic, where they're showing clips from 40 plus years ago, they were showing clips from 4 to 6 months ago when it came out.
Right.
So
yeah. But circling back to what we were talking about though, yeah, I have to agree with you though. Jabba that has to be the greatest costume that was built, subjectively speaking, of course, or objectively.
Well, it could be both.
Know. Yeah, it could be both.
Objective and subjective.
But yeah,
because you could, you could make the claim too that the Yoda costume, because didn't Deep Roy wear Yoda for a little bit in some of the scenes?
I thought Yoda was completely puppeteered.
Yeah, I thought Deep Roy was Yoda for a bit.
Yeah, granted, I could be wrong because I've said this before and I'll say it again. I have I have only dipped my toes into the behind the scenes stuff thus far, and I have you and Mike to thank for that. So, but yeah, I don't, I don't, I genuinely don't know. I was always under the impression that it was Frank Oz and a few others underneath the set puppeteering Yoda.
Yeah, I think there were some scenes where it might have been during the training sequences where you see Yoda on the ground and Lucas sitting around him. I
Mhm.
think there may have been some scenes there where Deep Roy was in the costume.
Well, I mean, those of you listening can correct us in the comments and let us know what that, or we can look it up. But what's the fun in that? Speculation's more fun, isn't it?
Yes, we can start rumors.
But yeah, even there are so many of the creatures and characters from Java's sail barge that I would also that if I could, because like I'm claustrophobic, so like a helmet is about as far as I can go without breaking down in just an asthma induced panic attack. But like if I could pull off like Yak Face or like even Max Rebo if I was a little bit shorter, I would love to do some of those costumes. But again, my claustrophobia will definitely get the best of me in some of those.
Well, think about being C-3PO. Talk about claustrophobia. I mean,
Yeah.
that's right here.
Yeah, and the worst part about that is I'm still contemplating doing either a K3PO or a TC-14. So we'll see how that one goes.
If I were to do a K2, it would be the with the motion capture suit and the big head behind me on stilts. That would be the closest that I would get to doing a droid.
Mm-hmm.
And that could be a funny costume all by itself that way anyway.
Well, yeah, you got to do the Pig Schwartz guy too. we need to pick a convention and pick a day, because obviously we're gonna wear our real costumes the majority of the time. The things that we worked very long and very hard on. But we need to pick a day or a time where we do the joke costumes, like do someone's got to do Ahmed Best, where it's just the Jar Jar head in the black bar across his eyes in the motion capture suit.
Yep.
You should do K2, where it's just the stick 2 feet above your head in the mocap suit, or the pink shorts guy, or someone. Oh my God, Mike should do George Lucas.
That would be fun.
I feel like Mike
fake beard and a wig.
Yes, and they just get him is it a Kirkland brand flannel and a pair of Levi jeans and white New Balances?
White New Balance. Gotta be white. Gotta be bright white New Balance shoes.
Or no, they're not New Balance.
Are they Nikes?
They're Nikes, but I forget exactly what the style is. It's a really weird name. Oh, that's gonna drive me nuts. Yeah, they're the white and blue Nikes. I know that they're bright white with the navy blue stitching. Oh, that's gonna bug me. I'm gonna try and talk while I look this up, but yeah, I think Mike could really pull off a good George Lucas if he grows out his facial hair just a little bit more. I know it'd be hard for him with teaching, and he doesn't want to look like a
Hair Monarchs.
That's what it is. I literally just pulled it up too.
Which is so funny considering he's the king of movies.
Right. And I really want to know, again, off topic, but I want to know who at Nike thought that Air Monarch was. That's the name of your shoe line that you really wanted to go for. But yeah, get him a pair of the real light blue Levi jeans and a blue or a red Kirkland flannel. I think it would be perfect.
Gotta be tucked in with a belt.
Right. But yeah. I think we could pull off the joke costumes fairly well. Just don't tell Marty because he'll upstage all of us. He'll make a screen accurate joke costume. Where the rest of us are just gonna be like, okay, well I found this at Goodwill and it was close enough.
Shows up as Ben Burt or John Knoll.
Yeah, I think of all of our crazy stupid ideas, I think that would be one that would be really fun to do.
Oh yeah, and it would be even. I think it'd be even more fun with Mike as George, with the two of us, as the bookends.
Mm-hmm.
Because one by the other wouldn't necessarily make sense, but to have all three of us would make it even more comical.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that being said, because now we're talking about costumes that we'd do as a joke. If you could do any costume, because like I said, mine would probably be Vader or Return of the Jedi Boba. What costume would you do if money wasn't an option?
If money was not an option.
If skill, time, and money were totally off the table.
I was very impressed with Baze Malbus from Rogue One, and and it's funny because that's part of the inspiration for my post-Imperial Mando. Do you remember that blaster he had with the energy coil to the backpack? So I'm making a modified version of that, but I just thought that whole setup was really unique and very, very cool. And I have seen I thought it was at Celebration that I saw it. Someone do a Baze Malbus. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, Baze is a great costume. I think another one that if I could do every costume in Star Wars, I would. But another one that I would love to do would be Coruscant Guard, Shock Trooper from Revenge of the Sith. That would be another one that I have access to do. I could do it if I really set my mind to it. But Mike and I have, again, this is another thing that we've spoken about ad nauseum. If you listen to all of our shows, being the Beskar Bucket, Inflatable Falcon, and the Force Spine Star Wars, that Mike and I will talk about how uncomfortable the Clone Trooper armor is at length. So, but that was the first costume that kind of drew me towards the costuming. Was those, and I think it's ironic because there were never any costumes of it for the films. Yeah, the Phase 2 Clone Troopers, specifically the Shock Troopers, were that I think that would be my go-to if I could pick any costume that I wanted to do, and it wouldn't necessarily be for I want to be picked out of a crowd. I would do the Shock Trooper.
Well, if we're going to that upper level, then it would be Echo from Bad Batch for me.
Who's cutting your arm off?
Well, I'm not sure if I'm gonna. I'm more of a method actor. I'm not necessarily gonna go to the.
Well, that's not method acting. Method acting is if you cut your actual arm off and you make yourself an amputee.
Oh, then I'm not a method actor. Maybe I'm just improv. That's what it is.
There you go.
Make it up as I go. But that costume is really involved and super cool looking.
Yeah, I think if there's one costume that if you could pull it off, I think Echo would be definitely up there as one. So because you've already got the look, like your facial structure is there to do it. I think if you just add that the bar on the back and the couple little dots, you've got the face
cranial
for
implants.
Yeah, you've got the face for it. And I think I really, really, really think you add a little bit of makeup to I don't want to say lighten your skin, but make you a little more pale, like Echo is.
Yeah, because he had been locked up in that server closet for a long time. He didn't see the light of day.
Right. Yeah, he's more gray than pale, though.
Yeah, ashy.
Yeah, I think if you add the makeup and the prosthetics, I think chef's kiss. You're 90% of the way there. So
and that's like for me that would be the epitome of engineering creativity to get a costume like that.
well, I mean, look, you get yourself a 3D printer, you are almost all the way there. Honestly, because like the files exist, the costume exists. It's and not a lot of people can pull off the look. Anyone can put on armor, absolutely anybody could, but not everyone can pull off the unmasked look of it. So, and I think you would be, just based on the Rad Batch poster that you guys did. I think if you guys nailed just one character look, I think it was you as Echo. So, I thoroughly I think that's definitely something you should strive for, just as much as I should strive to do the Shock Trooper.
And did the Shock Trooper had a big weapon too, didn't he? I can't remember. Did he have was it a rifle that he carried, or was it something else?
It was the DC-15S. It was the
Okay.
long blaster.
That's what it was. Okay.
But the Coruscant Guard Shock Trooper are interchangeable. It's just, where were they? Were they on Coruscant or were they not? So, because they were on Kamino too in the Bad Batch, and that's when you add the pauldron and yeah.
Which was the Coruscant Guard that had the big shield? I remember there was a toy that it was white and red, and on the front of the shield was, I thought it was the like a big logo. I thought it was a big, might have been the Senate logo or something like that.
Yeah, it was probably the GAR sigil, the Grand Army of the Republic. Yeah, I don't remember. I think that was just a variant of the Coruscant Guard, because like I know some of them had electro staffs as well.
Okay.
Yeah, there's so many variants, especially now with Battlefront. They added the 4 classes.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
So
I haven't played
yeah.
that in ages.
Oh, I love Battlefront too. I haven't played it in a while myself, but there's a side tangent here, real quick. The Battlefront 2, I think, will go down in infamy forever as the greatest flop to success that got snuffed too quickly, because it was, for lack of a better term, it was dog shit at first, because it was riddled with microtransaction. It was super buggy, super shallow. And then they got rid of the microtransactions, and everyone kind of forgot about it, except for, the core group of fans that was still there. And then they started adding things. So they added like Anakin, Obi-Wan, Grievous, Count Dooku, and a bunch of other heroes and a bunch of other planets and content to it. And then like it started regaining popularity. Like it turned out to be what it was supposed to be at launch. And then they're like, yep, all right, we're done. No more. There's no more new additions. This is the last DLC, and yeah, we're gonna cut off any like updates for this game, like just as it was like starting to peak at where its popularity was.
Was that the one that they ended after the Rise of Skywalker, or was it? Because I thought there was a character in that from Rise of Skywalker.
So that came the Battlefront 2 came out right after The Last Jedi, and then I think it was either late 2019, which is when The Rise of Skywalker came out, or early 2020 is when it got when support was shut off for it. Or not, like update support. Like the servers are still online. Like it's still playable, which is surprising. Because typically in video games, once your update support gets shut off, then everything goes pretty quickly out thereafter. I'm just trying to think, because like I know they added skins, like Rise of Skywalker skins for Finn, Rey, and Kylo. But the last characters that were added were Count Dooku and Anakin, I think.
Because Count Dooku had the pajamas from Clone Wars, didn't he?
Mm-hmm.
Which I thought was just hilarious that they of all of the things that they could do. I will give this guy pajamas.
Well, yeah, I think almost everyone, even Yoda, had an alternate outfit. Granted, it was dumb. It was just him with his hood up. But like Grievous had a really cool alternate skin where it was battle damaged. So he had scoring and burn marks all over him. It looked really good. They added I say all of, but a couple different skins from Solo for Han and Lando.
Oh, that's right. They did the younger versions, didn't they?
Yeah.
Like the Alden
Oh.
Ehrenreich and Donald Glover.
Donald Glover. Yeah, and it drives me nuts because the sculpts for the original trilogy characters, like the big three, Han, Luke, and Leia, weren't great when the game first came out. And like, yeah, you can tell they were them. Like, you could tell it was Han Solo, Luke Skywalker, and Princess Leia. But then you see the sculpts for Han and Lando, where it's Alden Ehrenreich and Donald Glover, and they look fantastic. Like, they are beautifully done. Like, it's indistinguishable from the actors themselves. And it drove me nuts because it was like, come on, you nailed this 4 months after the game came out. Like, first off, either fix these or they should have been done right in the first place. And then from there on out, everything was like the model they did for Hayden Christensen was really great too. Not as good as I think Donald Glover was the best one that they did. But the Ewan McGregor one was really good too.
I wish both of those games had a tourist mode, meaning that you could just log onto the game and walk around without having to blast anybody, without having to hide from teenagers who were playing the game, because there was so much detail that was put into those scenes. I remember wandering through Jabba's palace and seeing the carbonite that Han Solo had been stored in leaned up against the wall, and the Tauntaun head, and I'm like, I just want to look around. Like, and this goes back to me loving the behind the scenes stuff. Like, I just want to walk around, but every time I was looking at something, I get blasted.
Yeah, I think in one of the most beautiful maps that I remember from that game was Crate. Because, on the surface level, like, Crate was like, okay, you've got the bunker, and you kind of see him running through it in the movie, and then you've got the salt field. And that was really it. But, like, in the game, like, you've got all these different tunnels, you've got the trenches that the soldiers were in, and you can, like, explore all the different aspects of it, and then you can see, like, the crystal caves where they kind of built these makeshift trenches out of. Oh, it was so beautiful. I loved creating that game.
I thought that was a really beautiful one too.
Yeah,
the different colored plants and the animals and everything.
Yeah, Felucia was good. Kashyyyk and Naboo were really cool to, like, just walk through too. Yeah, Battlefront was. I think that was. It was killed off too quickly. But kind of like Boba Fett.
Into the Sarlacc with you, buddy.
Right. Yeah, I hope that I don't know if it's even still LucasArts anymore, but Lucasfilm in some aspect greenlights a Battlefront 3, whether that be with DICE/EA or with another, like maybe Activision gets another go at it.
I thought they had canceled their relationship with EA.
It's still, so they canceled their exclusive rights.
Oh, okay, that's what it is. Okay.
So, like, EA is still making Jedi Survivor, but they don't have they're not the only ones making Star Wars games.
Okay.
So, like, Star Wars Eclipse, if it's not canceled, I forget which studio it is, but it's not EA. Neither is again, if it's not canceled, the Knights of the Old Republic remake, which that's another thing. That's a whole nother tangent. I hope that game didn't get canceled, but yeah, EA doesn't hold the only cards anymore. So, but that being said, with them already making 2 Battlefront games, it's hard for me to imagine that they won't get if Lucasfilm wants to do a 3rd Battlefront game. It would be hard for me to imagine they wouldn't just give it back to DICE/EA.
Gotcha. Speaking of these skins and everything, do you have another costume in the works?
Not currently. I know we had talked about it, but I'm in the process of switching jobs, so that has currently occupied all of my time of trying to balance now 3 jobs instead of just 2. So throwing a costume into that is not exactly ideal. I'm still slowly but surely working on my TK, which it'll be a miracle if that is done within the next 10 years. But really what I'm trying to do right now is I'm trying to find my dad, because he also doesn't have time to build anything. So I'm trying to find someone who's assembled and selling a Sand Trooper costume, because that's what he really wants to do, and he wants to join the 501st with me. So that's currently what my costuming time has been.
So more hunting than making.
Right. But I've always got things that I tinker with here and there that I'll print, paint, or what have you. Like I've got a couple blasters that I've just been sitting on that I've been slowly painting and finishing. Oh, excuse me. Ugh. I'm having the same problems I had last episode where I just can't stop yawning.
I promise not to take it personally.
But yeah, so that's the hunt is really what I've been working on. So I and not everyone can be working on a second Mandalorian kit, Ken. Gosh.
Well, what's kind of funny about that is I found a picture on Facebook the other day from when I started working on my Mandalorian kit. It was from 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And the helmet that I was working on, the photograph, isn't the helmet that I ended up using. So I ended up storing that one and going a similar route, but a similar yet different route. But I ended up never finishing that helmet. Right now, it's just in the box in our storage unit.
You care to elaborate on that? Like, what helmet did you originally use that you scrapped to use in lieu of?
When I first started working on this costume, I was working on it by myself. Trying to use the forums and replica Plurap forum, RPF, and the Mandalorian Mercs forums, trying to do this all by my onesies. And so I had an old Hasbro toy, the one with the really wide visor, so it was a kid's toy. And I was modifying that. I had found instructions online to do it. And then I started getting involved in the Rakhardan clan with the Mando Mercs and started going to some of these armor parties. And so I got down to the point where I had started painting the helmet, and it wasn't looking the way that I wanted it to look. So right now that helmet is just in a box in storage, and I ended up buying a resin cast helmet and ended up painting that and using that for Kennex.
Gotcha. Yeah, I didn't know that you had, because I have that Hasbro helmet. The one with the ridiculously wide visor that we might actually see show up in The Mandalorian Season 3. But, again, anyway, side tangent.
Well, what's really funny about it is, so when I bought that helmet, I think I may have gotten it either at Toys R Us or Walmart on sale. And then started working on it, started cutting it up and modifying it to use in my costume. And then that same helmet went on clearance. And so I think I have 2 more of those in our storage unit, still in the boxes. Never taken out of the box. The boxes may be beat up or whatever. I'm pretty sure I have 2 more of those. But if you were to look those up online now, they're definitely, they cost more than what I paid for them. I think the last one I bought might have been $27 or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Now when you look at the Black Series helmets that come out, they're what, $125 each or something.
Yeah, and climbing.
And they're far and away different. So that one Hasbro helmet was built for kids. I think that's the reason why the visor was the T visor was so big, is so that kids could actually wear it around the house and not bump into stuff. But now the stuff that's coming out, the Black Series stuff, that's meant to be something that a costumer or a collector would really appreciate, because it looks a lot closer to what's on screen, and it's definitely constructed differently.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, the only thing is they've got the manufacturing lines that you got to clean up. That's the only thing. So you've got the panel gaps, if you will.
yeah, where the two bits come together, the seams and stuff.
Yeah, but then again, it's better than trying to fill in an entire visor, like some people did with the clone trooper helmets or the Boba Fett helmet. But yeah, I did not know that you initially started with that Hasbro helmet. It's,
and not only did I start with the Hasbro helmet, so for the armor, because at the time I had heard of the term Sintra, which that's the brand name. The actual material is expanded PVC. At the time when I was building it, like I said, I was doing it all on my own. I didn't know where I could get this. So instead of using Sintra, I was using garbage cans. So plastic garbage cans, and cutting out the pieces and trying to heat form that, and that kind of plastic definitely does not respond the same way to heat as Sintra does. So I was having a real hard time making this costume anywhere near approvable. And that's, I think, one of the benefits of joining some of these costume clubs, is you find out about the materials, you find out about the processes and the steps to do it. And as silly as this may sound, having another set of hands help you while you're wearing the costume, or so they can apply the necessary force to shape the costume to you, is much easier when you have another person than when you're trying to do it by yourself in your garage or your backyard or whatever, wherever you're working on these things. So being in these clubs is so helpful and handy that way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I need to find an armor party. That's because I really need some help with, especially with my TK. I could definitely use an armor party, and like I said, just to meet some more people. Because I had to cancel my first troop because of my new job. So that slot for my first troop is still wide open. But yeah, I need to meet some more Star Wars people close to home, so I can get that second set of hands. So, because as much as I love you and Mike, I can't drive 6 hours every time I need an extra set of hands.
Yeah, especially for something that probably takes half an hour to complete. A 12-hour drive for a half an hour's worth of work isn't necessarily all that helpful.
Hey, but it'd be fun.
That's for sure.
But, well, I think I'm going to wrap this up here. So, I appreciate you hanging out with me tonight, Ken.
Oh, thanks for letting me join you for another wonderful episode of the Beskar Bucket.
Yeah, and everyone, make sure to check us out Wednesday nights, 8:30, on the Inflatable Falcon on YouTube. Ken, where can they find you?
Well, they can find me. I'm one of the co-hosts for the Forces Behind Star Wars. And if things go well, we'll be recording another episode in the next few weeks. And we will most likely be talking about Industrial Light and Magic's recent documentary that they released on Disney Plus. And I don't know if you're aware of this, but one of the other cool things about that documentary is it was directed by Lawrence Kasdan. So a guy who has intimate experience as a employee of Lucasfilm, or working with Lucasfilm, who took a very wonderful, loving approach to that 6-episode docuseries that Disney Plus has shared with us. So that's what our next episode will be on. It may not be on the whole docuseries. We may chunk it up into smaller parts, but that's what we're planning on so far for our next episode of The Forces Behind Star Wars, which is a part of the unifying fandom.
Yeah, that sounds like a blast, and I can't wait to listen to it. So I love you guys over there at the Rad Batch. It's always fun drive to work whenever I have to listen to you guys. So
oh, thanks for that.
Yeah, so yeah, definitely check out the Inflatable Falcon. Obviously, you're listening to the Beskar Bucket, so listen to whatever's next and whatever's coming up. Then, of course, the forces behind Star Wars Geek Girl, which is our co-host Mike's daughter's podcast. It is the most popular out of all of our shows. So, any other shows that you can think to plug there, Ken? Am I missing anything?
The more that we can plug Zoe's show, the better. I mean, she has several more years of experience on us, so she deserves all the credit, praise, and love that we can give to her.
Yeah, she has more experience than any of us combined, in a far better show, if I do say so myself. So, hey, game recognizes game.
That is for sure. So, thanks for another time, man. I really appreciate it. Have a great night.
Yeah, thank you everyone for listening, and catch you on the next one.